happening, everybody? Welcome back to United View. And as promised, there's no delay. We have got the one and only Ben Jacobs with us to go through all the breaking news from this afternoon regarding Bruno Fernandes's potential switch to Saudi Arabia. Ben, first of all, thank you for taking the time out
My pleasure.
to join us and enlighten us, mate. Really appreciate it. How you been?
Everything is good. It feels like the window is open. And, you know, the odd quirk of this 1st to the 10th of June is not only do you get the flurry of business at the beginning, but 10 days in, we'll have a kind of mini deadline day as well. So I'm not sleeping much at the moment.
I don't envy you, mate. Yeah, you've got a lot of work to do over the next couple of months, really, but it's all kicking off now. Speaking of things that are all kicking off now, right, let's get straight into this, Ben. We've all seen your sort of your updates and stuff regarding this Bruno Fernandes situation. What is the latest and how do you understand it to be at the current state of play?
So as of now, Bruno Fernandes and his agent are in active talks with Al-Hilal. Fernandes's agent went over to Saudi, not just yesterday, but for the entire week. And they held a meeting at the Four Seasons Hotel in Riyadh yesterday. Al-Hilal in that meeting, through their president, Fahad bin Nafel, said to Bruno Fernandes's agent, an answer must be given within 7 days. So previously, there was a 72-hour deadline for Fernandes to engage or say yes to the project. That took us to Thursday. The response of the Fernandes camp was to hold face-to-face talks. And now Bruno Fernandes has been told that 7 days from now, if there is no final answer, the offer will be pulled because Al-Hilal want to sign Fernandes and other marquee names in time for the Club World Cup. Their first game is against Real Madrid on the 18th of June. And Bruno Fernandes right now is seriously considering this Al-Hilal offer. If he gives the green light, a formal approach very quickly will be made to Manchester United. I'm told that Al-Hilal are prepared to offer around 100 million euros. Manchester United may want a bit more if they change their not-for-sale stance. But this is going to move very quickly because Al-Hilal have made it abundantly clear to Bruno Fernandes, if there is not clarity one way or the other in the next 7 days, they'll move on to other targets. And they have a few. Not all of them are like for Bruno Fernandes, but in midfield, they like Barella, they like Tielemans, they like Edison at Atlanta, who's a different kind of player. Then they want a right winger and a striker as well. And again, all before that opening game against Real Madrid on June the 18th at the Club World Cup.
This is incredible stuff. I mean, for Bruno Fernandes, I mean, I was there in the mix zone after the cup final on last week in the Europa League, and he said, asked from journalists, he said that I will be here until the club tell me otherwise. It's not about money. I want to win trophies at this club, and I will remain here. Has there been a switch that's happened since that time, or why are Al-Hilal so confident? What were the nature of these sort of discussions with Bruno that has given them basically this in and this positivity and this sort of, you know, access to they think they can get this done?
Well, first of all, I think it was very clever from Bruno Fernandes because he's in control of the optics by saying, if Man U want to cash in, then I would leave. It means that if he does leave, people are going to assume that Manchester United want to cash in. But maybe Bruno Fernandes also said that because if he decides to move and the deal gets done, it looks like Manchester United are driving the possibility of him going to Saudi Arabia. I think what's changed as well, if we remove Fernandes's comments from the equation, is just Manchester United don't have Champions League football. They've got a tight PSR position and they need to strengthen in a number of areas. Ruben Amorim would like not just Mateus Cunha, but another number 10. That's where the Embuemo link comes from. A right-sided attacker, Tyler Dibbling, is one option. A centre forward, they're not going to be able to get Delap, who's off to Chelsea. So now other targets are probably more expensive than Delap, which means you've not only missed out on your leading target, but if they go for some of the popular choices, whether it's Mateta, I don't know how many fans would endorse that particular move, but Gyokeres, for example, would be one that Manchester United fans celebrate. Victor Osimhen is another, although I'm not aware of anything concrete between Manchester United and Osimhen because he could end up in Saudi Arabia as well. But the reality is, if Manchester United are to fund that collective business, maybe a number one goalkeeper, certainly a backup goalkeeper, very possibly another defender. And then depending on what happens with Casemiro and with Eriksen leaving, even if Bruno stayed, you could say another midfielder too. So if you're to find these players that fit Amorim's system, somehow Manchester United need to fund it. And my sense is what's changed is that Ruben Amorim, Jason Wilcox, Christopher Vivell, and ultimately Jim Ratcliffe realised that Anthony to Betis, Rashford to Barcelona, Garnacho to Napoli, Chelsea, or elsewhere, that's actually not going to be enough now you've spent
enough. Yeah.
5 million on Cunha. But if you cash in on Bruno Fernandes, even though some fans would argue he's irreplaceable, that's the kind of budget plus Garnacho that reflects well on the books and allows you to be very aggressive in the market. So I think Manchester United will actually be tempted to sell Bruno Fernandes if, and it is an if at the time we're live, Bruno Fernandes gives his green light.
I was going to ask you about that actually. From our Al-Hilal's perspective, how high are they willing to go? And how much do you think Manchester United will be trying to barter in this position? So you mentioned then, I agree with everything you say of, so Jim Ratcliffe and the decision makers could go, I tell you what, we can't really look to not look at this. It's too significant a fee. Would Al-Hilal be happy, or could they be persuaded to go north of 100 million euros? Or do they have a cut-off point? Do they have a ballpark fee? Or is it a sort of a one-time, here's your offer, we know Bruno wants to come and we know you need the money, so you're not getting more out of us than 100 million? What sort of figures could we be looking at here?
Well, the first offer won't be the final offer. It never is with Saudi. And they will also be aware that even if Manchester United had a desire to sell financially, Fernandes is well contracted. And at the age of only 30, which is young in the context of Saudi targets, Bruno Fernandes could go to Saudi Arabia for 3 or 4 years and make an impact. And because there's urgency on Hilal's part, Manchester United, if a bid is placed, will be in a very strong position. And my understanding is the starting point will be around the 100 million euros or roughly 80 million pound mark. But Hilal are prepared, if they have to go higher. At this stage, it's not a great negotiating tactic to put too many cards on the table. But it's not unthinkable that Manchester United could get 100 million pounds. It's not impossible that Manchester United could surpass the British transfer record that was paid for Moises Caicedo, because Bruno Fernandes is in demand. There's urgency for Al-Hilal, but we're not there yet, because nothing is going to be placed on Manchester United's table until an answer comes from Bruno Fernandes. But Manchester United are aware of the talks. They're aware that Bruno Fernandes is seriously considering moving away.
Are they relaxed about the situation?
They're relaxed because the reality is, a bit like other clubs, Manchester City is probably the most famous example. If a player knocks on the manager's door or the hierarchy and says they want to leave, there's an aspect of fighting to keep, but there's also a respect that this is the Manchester United captain. If he decides to take a once-in-a-lifetime financial opportunity, Manchester United will also themselves get a once-in-a-window financial opportunity, and it might just suit all parties. So it isn't unthinkable that Manchester United will change their position. Right now, if we're giving you the exact update, Manchester United are calm, they don't want to sell, and they haven't received an offer. But if an offer actually comes, Manchester United may change their position, because this is a bit different to other deals. If an offer comes, it won't be blind. An offer will only arrive to Manchester United if Bruno Fernandes has said yes. And if he says yes, it changes the dynamic and the negotiations, and very possibly Manchester United's position as well.
That's a really good point. I didn't think of it from that side of view, because they're only going to bid if the player says yes. In terms of these deadlines, Ben, we saw that there was supposed to be a Thursday deadline, obviously yesterday at the time of recording this. That has now passed, and you're talking about this sort of 72-hour window now. What's the discrepancies between these deadlines? When is the actual deadline of which they will just completely call it a day?
7 days from now, I'm told they'll pull the offer. It's as
Right, 7
simple
days
as
from now.
that.
Sorry, not 72.
And next week, to put pressure on Fernandez, they will concurrently line up other deals, particularly Barella and possibly Tielemans. And then in other positions, there's an interesting sub-story here around Victor Osimhen, who Al-Hilal wants,
I
but
was going to
central
ask you
deal
about this as
makers.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go into this in a bit of detail, but central deal makers have got this idea that Ronaldo somehow extends at Al Nassr, is loaned to Al Hilal for the Club World Cup, comes up against Messi, even though Hilal and Inter Miami are not even in the same group, and then goes back to Al Nassr. But I'm not so sure that Ronaldo will go for that. And meanwhile, despite some Saudi executives wanting that to be the case, Al Hilal would love to sign Victor Osimhen. So there's a bit of politics at play. But the discrepancy between the two deadlines, to be as specific as I can, and Saudi deals are atypical. 72 hours was say yes to the project. The week from now until Friday next week is about get the deal done or the offer is off the table. So we don't know, because I wasn't in the room. I do my best as a journalist. But we don't know yet whether in that Thursday meeting, which was on the day of the deadline, given on Tuesday earlier this week, we don't know whether Bruno Fernandez's agent actually said he's game.
Yeah.
And as a
Yeah, it's just
consequence,
a meeting.
the
Yeah.
first deadline may have been met, because that wasn't about agreeing to the terms or signing or informing Manchester United. That was about, is he open to this Saudi move? And it's also complicated by the fact that these deadlines, at least the 72-hour one, will be soft, not hard, simply because Bruno Fernandes is involved in a postseason tour. You've got the agent in Saudi. You've got Manchester United's lawyers, no doubt, operating still out of the UK. You've got the team on tour. So 3 different time zones. And it's a big, big decision. But now we're past that first deadline and we're into the window is opening on the 1st. It's closing on the 10th. Friday is the day when Bruno Fernandes will have to move this forwards to allow Al Hilal time to go to Manchester United with a bid and get this done if they get the green light. If they don't hear from Bruno Fernandes or get clarity, towards the beginning of the week, they'll line up other deals. And towards the end of the week, they'll move on. And it might sound strange to fans that don't understand how Saudi work. But number one, the Club World Cup is vitally important to Al Hilal. Number two, they're under pressure to spend the money that's been given to them centrally. People assume PIF is rich, they're funding all of this. No, it is central ministry funds. And what's happened is Al Hilal got given a 3-year contract for Mo Salah worth £170 million a year. So £510 million in total. After they failed Salah, the money was retained by the club. So now they've got to spend it or lose it.
They're expected to use it, right?
For
Yeah,
the Club World Cup. And if they fail to spend that money, 2 things happen. First of all, the ministry say, where are your marquee names for the Club World Cup? And second of all, the other clubs go nuts and say, you only had that money because of the Club World Cup. If you don't spend it, keep it, finish the Club World Cup and then spend it. The other clubs, because the slices of the pie are not equal from about 2 billion of central funds, they start saying we should be more supported. They didn't use that money wisely. So you've got this constant kind of conflict between what the club want, what the ministry want, and ultimately the ministry are underwriting these kind of deals. So that adds a little bit more urgency to the situation. And then the final point to note, which makes it very confusing as a reporter to cover, is deals are often lined up and done and taken to the point of medical concurrently. So if we go back to the last big transfer from the Premier League, John Duran goes to Al Nassr, but Victor Boniface was completely lined up with an agreement in principle, and both players were just waiting to be told which one was doing the medical, because only one of those deals was going to happen.
As Oshimen and Tony the summer before. I remember covering that. It's the same thing, isn't it?
So Victor Osimhen thought he was joining. He was, in theory, the preference. But ironically, when De Laurentiis at Napoli found out about the Tony deal and the Tony price, he went back to Saudi deal makers. He revoked on an agreement in principle and said, if Tony's 40 million, then Osimhen needs to be more than the 80 million euros that you're offering. He upped the price. Saudi walked away. Tony got told he could do his medical. So next week, we're going to hear a lot of games. And within those games, it won't just be about Bruno Fernandes. And if he's going to join, it will be other names who are genuinely being brought to the point of completion. Because if Fernandes takes until Friday and then says no, Hilal are not going to have much time to move. So they're actually going to have to line up more than one deal. But if Fernandes says yes, regardless of any of the other smoke that you hear, he is the number one target that Al-Hilal are looking to bring in his position.
And lastly, before we let you go, Ben, the Victor Osimhen situation. I've got to ask you on this. You touched on it a little bit. We've seen the situation happen with Liam Delap, where he's opted to go to Chelsea. So Manchester United's options for strikers are very, very limited now. And the aisle that they're shopping in, having not got Champions League football, is also very, very limiting. Victor Osimhen, I've seen reports that it's not to do with whether Manchester United have Champions League football or not. It's more of the salary demands that he would make, which would obviously be significant. Is there genuine interest at all from Manchester United now that their options are running out? Maybe if they do sell Bruno Fernandes, is it maybe a domino effect that could happen? Or are the Saudi teams also still very strong on trying to get Victor Osimhen and the likes of a Bruno Fernandes and really spend this Salah money?
There's only historical interest between Manchester United and Victor Osimhen. I'm not aware of any new approach. And Premier League clubs, Chelsea and others that have inquired at different points, seem to think that Osimhen is most likely to end up in Saudi Arabia. The clue will obviously be if we see movement in the next 7 days or so. If the Club World Cup starts and Osimhen is not an Al-Hilal player, then other suitors will start to gain more confidence. But if Manchester United were to enter that race, first of all, I think they would need to sell Bruno Fernandes. And second of all, they'd have to be patient because it's not a deal that they'll be able to do before the Club World Cup in this 1st to the 10th of June window. Even Mateus Cunha, I'm told the latest is Cunha's waiting on a visa, hasn't done the medical yet. Deal is not in doubt, but it's very possible that the contract will start 1st of July, not 1st of June. So then Manchester United save on June wages. They pay the first instalment to Wolves on the 1st of July. That's after the PSR deadline. So it makes their bookkeeping a little bit easier because it's not a PSR headache for Cunha on this financial year. And then by next financial year, we don't even know definitively what's even going to happen with PSR. So maybe by then there'll be a bit more leeway. But I think what people don't realize is that when Victor Osimhen was in limbo and went to Galatasaray, he wanted to move to Al-Ahly. He didn't want to go to Chelsea at that point. Wrongly, people were billing it as Saudi's the backup and Chelsea is the preference. But Osimhen had 3 previous offers from Al-Hilal the year before, and he nearly went then. Then Al-Ahly came calling, and Osimhen wanted that move. He wanted the money. He wanted to try the project. He wanted to be in a league that he was sold on having a number of stars that would join him in a kind of snowball effect. And he thought that deal was done. It fell through. Ironically, he did a loan deal that he told suitors he was not prepared to do because he wanted security. And now we're full circle again, where Osimhen is waiting for Saudi. Al-Hilal have got some politics. They would love to do the deal within Al-Hilal, but central deal makers are saying, what about Cristiano Ronaldo? And we have to wait a little bit and see how that pans out and who wins the political battle. From there, if Osimhen's to join a club like Man United or Chelsea linked, or even Juventus, who have a concrete desire to do a deal, they got to match this one thing, £250,000 a week, but guaranteed. So Osimhen doesn't want incentive driven. He doesn't want to earn significantly more if he does well, significantly less if he doesn't. He wants a fixed minimum of 250k. So
it's
then
like securing your mortgage.
Yeah,
do you get
precisely.
fixed mortgage or variable?
Now, Chelsea and Man United long before Chelsea have always had this 20% reduction if you don't get Champions League football, because clubs want to protect themselves. And that's not the kind of wage structure that Osimhen is looking for. So 2 things would have to happen for Manchester United to enter the race. Likely sell Bruno Fernandes, then trigger a release clause that's 75 million and hope that Victor Osimhen changes his financial demands. And it may be that before any of that happens, Manchester United realise Osimhen is going elsewhere. I also think if they got that level of money, and it's only a personal opinion, but it's informed obviously by speaking to some sources, if Man United elevated themselves through sales to the point where they could get a box office striker, then instead of it being Delap release clause now going to Chelsea, or maybe a profile like Mateta, instead you move to Gyokeres because Ruben Amorim knows him so well. And the outside chance that Manchester United have got with Gyokeres, if he chooses to move to the Premier League, is that Ruben Amorim factor. Because all other suitors are being told Gyokeres wants Champions League football, also wants a wage of 200 to 250,000, but would be prepared maybe to be a bit more flexible with how that's structured. But any other suitor other than Manchester United that goes for Victor Gyokeres that does not have Champions League football is not likely to succeed. But Manchester United have got the Amorim factor, so you can never say never. But we're being speculative because we're talking about a list of number nines that, whether Manchester United like them or not, they cannot afford them at the moment without outgoings, which is why, even though there's a not for sale stance, if Al-Hilal get to the point of formally making an offer for Bruno Fernandes, Manchester United may have to seriously consider it.
Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I know you've got a lot on your plate, so we really, really appreciate you dropping by just to give us the absolute latest on this. And as you say there, this is going to be an ever-changing landscape. A lot of games are going to be played. A lot of dominoes will have to fall. But to summarize, the offer and the interest is 100% real. Bruno Fernandes does indeed have a decision to make. He has 7 days to make up his mind, or Al-Hilal will revoke that contract offer. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, that's an excellent summary. It's much pithier than I explained it. Maybe what we should do in future is I should just tell you my rambling information off there, and you can just come on air single camera and give it in about 5 seconds instead of 5 hours.
No, we need to hear from the main man.
I would just add one more thing, which is Saudi business is a bit nuts in terms of their working days. And we're in Friday, and obviously it's the weekend there. That won't affect anything. That's not the nuts part, by the way. That's just the working week. It also means you can wake up on a Sunday and there might be movement. But I've been out to Saudi probably 30 times, and only last week I was in meetings. I was waiting outside of hotels to meet agents, and basically nothing starts before 3 p.m. local time. And very possibly business gets done over a dinner that extends until 5 or 6 in the morning. So we are recording this now live at 2:30, and a lot of Manchester United fans have woken up and they're asking for an update. What's the answer? Wasn't the meeting last night? But if there's to be any progress, it's very possibly going to break at 10 to 3 a.m. UK time, because the presidents tend to be very hands-on. They tend to like to get the agents face to face. They'll dine them, they'll socialize with them. And many times I know of deals that have been done in that more social environment. So unfortunately for Manchester United fans, it might be a late one. You may have to keep your eyes peeled, because this could break at any point now. And by break, I don't mean necessarily he's going, but I mean it's going to be staggered in, does Bruno accept or doesn't accept? That's the first point and the key point. Second thing is an offer placed to Manchester United. And then obviously we'll learn the true stance of whether not for sale genuinely means not for sale. But I think this is going to happen very quickly, and I am expecting full clarity within about 7 days.
Guys, keep your notifications on. Get your alarms ready, because as Ben says, this might not be the traditional route of transfers of what we're used to seeing. And of course, with such a big player attached to it, it's very much watch this space. Ben, absolute pleasure, my friend. And we will speak again soon. We really appreciate you dropping by to give us the latest on this. And I'm sure I'll be coming to you at some stage, maybe a little bit further on down the line for another update. So yes, we'll speak again soon, mate. Take care. And you guys,
all the best. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely, mate. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Take care, guys. We will see you all again soon.
Bye.